I just wanted everything to be perfect. I had my life planned out. I was gonna have a husband, I was gonna have kids, I was gonna have the house, I was gonna put my head down, I was gonna go to school, I was gonna finish in 4 years. Very quickly I realized that you're not in control of your life. I feel like my life is already pre-planned out and I'm just learning as I go the steps to go forward.
In honor of Pride, this episode is made possible with the support of Spring Health.
So can you talk about what your style says about you?
I think my style says that I was not in control of a lot of things in my life that have happened to me. And so when I can find a place to have control, I tend to hold on to that. I grew up in a heteronormative society where I was told to fit in a certain mold. And I think it took me having my diagnosis get to a disabling spot where it was like, well, now there is no way for me to fit the mold, so I should start making my own mold.
So can you talk about assumptions that people make about you based on your appearance?
I lived a lot of years with an invisible disability. When you looked at me, you couldn't tell what I had gone through. I've been using a wheelchair for 2 years, I believe, but pandemic. So I really wasn't out there, and so I was able to get confident in myself before anyone else could impose on that. But going out, of course, I get stares. People believe they have a right to know your medical history when you have a very visible disability. I got annoyed because I did a dance video and my foot moved like that, and someone said she's faking it and she's using a chair because she's lazy.
Because they assume you're paralyzed.
Yes. So I posted a clapback video and it was me, I crossed my leg in it, and it got 8 million views. For me, it's crossing my leg in a wheelchair. I had to stop reading the comments because there are thousands and thousands and thousands. I think they see a confident woman in a chair and that's a threat to them. Being a queer woman, being a disabled woman, and they view that as, wow, I feel threatened that she's gotten to a level of self-love and self-acceptance that I'm not at. And the second I took on that point of view, the comments stopped hurting.
Can you go back to like where you were when this all started?
When I was in the 5th grade, I went to the Orange County Fair with my family, and I had back pain. We walked around all night. I'm like, Mom, my back hurts so bad. And she's like, what 11-year-old is having back pain? I'd wake up in the middle of the night with not being able to move my legs. They'd be pulled up to my chest. And I'd had a loft bed, so I'd have to lower myself down without the use of my legs and drag myself down the hallway to my parents' room. So I got the diagnosis of Tethered Cord Syndrome, and it is oftentimes diagnosed at birth. There is some visual cues, but for me, I had this ticking time bomb in me, and I grew up with the beautiful oblivion. After I was diagnosed, we were waiting to book surgery, but my legs weren't moving at all, and it's extremely uncomfortable. And the doctor said, is there any other medical conditions in the family? Yes. Dad has migraines. I think that she's attention seeking. And that was my first experience being a woman in the healthcare system. So we did my surgery. We cut my spinal cord off of the tumor, and they said it was like a rubber band that's pulled and stretched, and you cut it and it flung out of you. It's supposed to be free floating, but it was tethered down. So when you free it, it went back into place.
So that's good.
Yes.
Okay.
I had a 40% chance of retethering the scar tissue. That's when scar tissue grows around the base of your spinal cord. So that causes pain, causes nerve damage. My parents are freaking out. Obviously, they're directly accessing my spinal cord. And in my head, I was like, okay, how many weeks can I go back on the playground? And then after I had my spinal cord free, I grew 9 inches. So my body was trying to have a growth spurt, but was being held down the whole time. Started in middle school, started getting into like the normal kid stuff, and for 2 solid years, I ran cross country, ran track and field. I had like the 3rd time in my school for running the mile. Sky was the limit again. And then after my 8th grade year, I retethered, and after that, it's never been the same. So I actually went to pain management, and they did nerve ablation, which is where they would burn down into my back till I screamed. And that's where mental health trauma began. Just very terrifying to be in 8th grade, laying on a table a couple times a month, and they burn into you till you scream. And it was traumatizing for me, traumatizing for my mom to be there. But the problem was my spinal cord, not the nerves. My spinal cord was stuck in scar tissue. Now, when we talk to my surgeon about it, he says I would have never permitted that to happen if I would have known what they were actually doing to you. When we were still trying to figure it out, I started high school at that point, and that's full-time schedule. It's carrying books from classes for the first time, and my back got so severe that the quality of life was going down because I was unable to even, to sit, to walk, to tolerate living. My life was revolving around pain coming back, surgery, recovery, a couple months in between, and then it was just this pattern over and over and over again. So it was just grasping at straws for me to stay afloat with physical health and mental health. That was in between surgeries that mental health started to decline. When my depression's bad, the future gets foggy. I couldn't see tomorrow, I couldn't see college, I couldn't see a career, I couldn't see me in my 50s, I couldn't see me in 5 years. My mom was sleeping with me every single night because I was terrified to be alone with my thoughts.
And this is senior year of high school, basically.
Freshman year of college, I think, was my last detethering surgery. And after that, he said, if I go in again and remove scar tissue, your spinal cord's so delicate, my dura, which surrounds it, cut it open, and you should be able to stitch it. Mine was like wet tissue paper, so you couldn't even get a stitch through it. Really, for my whole family, it was like this panic because there were no treatment options for 2 years. So I was bedbound for 2 years.
Like over this timeline, like what is going on with like your queerness and your sexuality, and like how is that interplaying with your mental health and everything going on?
It completely interlaces with it. I only went on one date in high school, but that was actually my first sign that I wasn't straight, but I was so preoccupied with just surviving that I didn't even pick up on it, and it wasn't until I actually came out that I was like, oh my gosh, that date where he tried to grab my hand and my whole body pulled away, and in my head I was like, why did you do that? Why? You've been waiting for me to hold your hand all night. Why didn't you do that? You've been preparing for this. Like, my body, my mind was like, don't like that, before I even knew it. My first queer crush was my senior year of high school. Shout out to the redhead in my class, and I don't know your name, but she walked into my class. My heart sank and the butterflies started, and I was like, what is this feeling? I wanted to go to the LGBT center in Long Beach, but I had to come out to one of my parents in order to do that, or else my location would give it away. Had to come out to my mom first. I was at a party with my family where transphobic comments were being made, and I said, I can't stand here and listen to you people say these horrific, horrific things. Slammed the door and left. And so when I came home, my mom was like, what happened? I was in the garage. Why did you just leave? Well, I have something to tell you. And then she was like, what? And so I'm not straight. And there was just silence. And she was like, well, are you sure it's just because you missed that high school time to figure out your sexuality? I was like, well, no, actually, I'm queer because I like women. It was my last time now walking in a pride parade, because next time I'll be rolling. It was 2019, right before the pandemic hit. I still feel like the electricity in my soul of an entire city of everyone just cheering for you in full support. There's no hiding. I was like, okay, I'm queer. Here we go. Pandemic hit. And my condition after 2019 began to very quickly decline. I went from walking 5 miles a day to I can do a few steps into the bathroom before I'm toast.
So I know that you were saying at some point you were at rock bottom. Can you take us a little bit through that?
I knew that there were options available out there to get help, and I was already going to therapy at that point. But when you're going through it, then that stigma is brought onto you. Like, my parents are going to be disappointed in me because I'm feeling this way. My dad came from nothing and fought so that he could provide a stable, happy life for me, and I'm still suicidal. Like, was shame for me. When there's no distractions, and it's completely still, and all you have to do is sit there with your thoughts, that's when it would get too loud for me. There was more help out there, so I needed to just ask for it. Told my therapist. She immediately booked me an appointment with the psychiatrist, immediately got me into intensive outpatient program. Everyone had a different childhood, a different problem, a different reason that led them there, but we all had the same symptoms. Then for the first time, it's reciprocated back to you. You're not telling someone and they're saying, I'm so sorry. It was like, yes, I've had that too. I feel that all the time. People that come before me saying, no, I've been where you've been. And there's gonna be a way out and there's gonna be a light. You just have to trust the process. That was the shift, because when I started figuring out my sexuality, terrifying for different reasons than medical trauma, mental illness was, but I've been able to return to that core of community. Find the community, find the people who've been where you've been, find the people who are going through what you're going through, and build off of that. Talk to girls from all over the US that use chairs for different reasons, and once a week we all meet up and just are able to like let go, and you don't have to put up the front being like, no, I'm doing great this week. It's like you don't even have to explain anything. You just show up as you are and you're accepted.
Where are you at right now with like just the sense of acceptance of your diagnosis, your disability?
So much opens up in your life when you have the ability to sit. For the first time, I feel like the world has opened up for me. Part of my own healing was listening to queer people, to listening to disabled people, and then the combination of queer and disabled people. Like the second I could like just see myself out there and it wasn't just me anymore, I feel like the limitations that the world set for me lifted.
When was the last time you cried?
When I had the opportunity to speak to another girl who has Tethered Cord Syndrome and a treatment failed for her. This girl that has the same story as me, and she was at the point of where I was bedbound, where like her life is, it's pain. Every second of every day is pain. When she texted me saying like, it didn't come out how we wanted it to, it takes you back to that moment where you put everything on the line, you had your body opened, you've just given up control and just say like, okay, I hope the universe lets this work out for me. And when it doesn't, I didn't have anyone to pick me up after that. And so I'm grateful that the universe put me and life's put me in situations where I have felt that pain. And then I was able to see myself climb up from that and to know that it's possible for me and be able to tell my story and talk to other people that are going through similar things, whether it's with tethered cord or disability or queerness, and say like, yeah, shit sucks sometimes, but you're not alone. And know that in this darkness, there is gonna be light, and if you can't see it, you have to become it.
When do you feel the most vulnerable?
Stepping into a space that I'm unfamiliar with. I came out bedbound, pandemic started, was able to sit, and now I'm vaccinated. And so I'm able to actually like enter queer spaces for the first time. And I have to just swallow the fear and use that as the adrenaline to push me forward. I feared having my spinal cord scraped. I feared having a bone taken out of my back and screws and rods and a machine being put into my stomach to give me pain relief. If asking a girl out is the biggest fear I'm having right now, like I made it through all of that. So I'm trying to just embrace the fear and get comfortable in it. Again, it's a different kind of fear, but it's a good fear.
When do you feel the most beautiful?
When I am reminding myself that the body I have is resilient. I look at my body and I'm like, look, I was opened up and it healed. I have cellulite because I'm not walking all the time, and I've never felt bad about that because it's like, God, my body is sitting here today. And I feel like when I'm able to appreciate my own body and what it's gone through, no one else's words can hurt that. You put that bubble up and just let it ricochet off.
Okay, so last question. Why in your body? Why in your skin? Why in your journey? Why is it a good place to be?
My body's a good body because it has gone through hell and back. And it's sitting here today. It's in one piece, and that's a good day for me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
That was
guys.
so beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode of What's Underneath with the trailblazing Claire, and made possible with the support of Spring Health.
Follow us along on Instagram at StyleLikeU and at spring.health for more details on how you can join in on our mental health awareness campaign.
For more incredible interviews, you can like and subscribe to StyleLikeU on over there.
And don't forget to click the bell so that you're reminded every time we drop a new video on Thursdays.